The pamphlet is shocking and vile, basically outlining the rules for rape, but the idea that ISIS is kidnapping, selling and raping women and children is hardly surprising. Bernard Freamon, Professor of Law and an expert on modern-day slavery and human trafficking from Seton University, joins me now. Thanks very much for your time. Now, this guy is horrific, committing rape, beating, pedophilia, all in the name of Allah. No doubt you're as shocked about this as anyone. For those not versed in the Quran, what does it say when it comes to punishment and abuse?
With respect to the Quran, well, these people have not committed any crime or done any violation, so there is actually no verse in the Quran that deals with this particular situation in terms of a criminal aspect. There are verses, and if you take a very literalist, ahistorical interpretation of the Quran, there's a verse that talks about those who your right hands possess. There are several verses that generally apply to war captives, people who are war captives, and I suspect the ISIS pamphlet, I have not seen a translation of it, but the ISIS pamphlet is trying to use those verses to justify what basically is rank human trafficking. These Yazidi women are not war captives. There is no war between the Yazidis and ISIS. There is no lawful jihad. And so if they're not war captives, then there is no basis. It's illegal under Islamic law for the ISIS people to do this kind of thing. Also, we have to remember that Islam has a long imperial legacy, a legacy of war, and war oftentimes leads to human trafficking, and that's exactly what's happening here. And so it's interesting to note that the pamphlet only deals with women. War captives would be men and women. What happened to the men if they were lawful war captives? I think the purpose, ISIS's purpose mainly here, as I've said before, is to appeal to the prurient interest of young, disaffected men who are interested in having sex with impunity with women who are in this captured situation. You have about 1,100 years of people using pretextual jihad to plunder villages, rape and pillage women, and bring them back as captives. And this seems to me to be no different. It really has to do with the view that you take of jihad in this circumstance, but under no circumstances could you describe the women in these circumstances as war captives. And so therefore this little pamphlet is really just another species, it seems to me, of modern day human trafficking and appealing to men to come and have sex with women that are in a captive and a kidnapped situation, not unlike what people would do where people have done with human trafficking victims in Europe and America, South America, and Asia. And this is really no different. This is no different.
With that in mind, for the young men who have a tendency to join these groups and become affected by the extremist ideology, what can the Muslim community do to prevent that, and what can the community at large do?
That's a very good question. The last time I was on your show, I talked about the fact that about 50 Muslim scholars have directed a letter to Mr. Baghdadi telling him that this form of slavery is illegal under Islamic law and a sin in Islam. And recently, as I understand it, there was a meeting of 600 scholars at Al-Azhar University in Cairo that came to the same conclusion. There is now a consensus among Islamic scholars that slavery is unlawful and cannot be revived. And actually, this form of trafficking is the worst. It's illegal under Islam and illegal under international humanitarian law. So I would urge Muslims who know anything about this to stand up and to direct their opinions at those people who might think that there's something to what ISIS is doing. I would also commend everyone to look at verse 4:36 in the Quran, which talks about captives in war and how they are to be treated.
Now,
and
Professor,
it talks about good treatment and finding ways to release captives in war rather than putting them in markets and selling them like livestock. Also, that verse in the Quran that talks about, it's ma malakat aymanukum in Arabic, that verse could also be applied to livestock and other things that are captured in war. So it's really perverse. Yes.
sorry to interrupt. I just want to
Yes.
move on and look at this arrest of the engineer in India who we now know may be responsible for creating and maintaining a pro-ISIS Twitter account. How big a role do you think social media is playing in disseminating these sorts of messages, and how should that be addressed?
I think social media is very important, and social media is something which is paid attention to and followed by young people, especially young men, but also young women. And so ISIS is very, it's propaganda. It's war propaganda. As I suggested before, what comes with war is trafficking in women. And so that's what's happening here. And so to appeal to young men with this kind of thing, like people do with pornography, it's not much different. And so the social media, we have to pay attention to that. And Muslims should get on that social media to express contrary opinion if they think that they should, if they think it's important.
A very good point. Very good point. Professor Bernard Freamon, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for having me.